The creation of Adam and Eve. According to the biblical account, after creating the heavens and the earth, God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. This first man was named Adam. God planted a garden in Eden, a land filled with beauty and abundance, with fruit-bearing trees of all kinds and a river that flowed through it, dividing into 4 branches. In the center of the garden, God placed 2 special trees, the tree of life, which bore the fruit of immortality, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, whose fruit was prohibited by God. God gave Adam the responsibility of tending the garden and naming all the animals. He also gave him a single command: "Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die." Genesis 2:16 and 17. However, God saw that it was not good for Adam to be alone. So he caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep, took one of his ribs, and from it formed the woman, who would be his companion. Adam called her Eve, for she would be the mother of all living. Life in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve lived in Eden in perfect harmony with God, with nature, and with each other. They were naked but felt no shame, for they had not yet experienced sin. The Garden of Eden was a place of delight, where there was no suffering, pain, or death. The temptation and the first sin. The serpent, which was more cunning than any of the animals of the field, Genesis 3:1, appeared in the garden and began speaking to Eve. The serpent, often interpreted as an instrument of Satan, questioned God's command and sowed doubt in the woman's heart. It asked, "Has God indeed said, 'You shall not eat of every tree of the garden'?" Eve responded that they could eat from all the trees except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for if they ate from it or touched it, they would die. The serpent contradicted God, saying, "You will not surely die, for God knows that in the day you eat of it your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Eve, seeing that the fruit looked good for food, pleasant to the eyes, and desirable for gaining wisdom, yielded to temptation, ate the fruit, and also gave some to Adam, who was with her, and he ate as well. The consequences of sin. After eating the fruit, their eyes were opened, and they realized they were naked. Ashamed, they sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. When they heard God's voice in the garden, they tried to hide. God called out to Adam, "Where are you?" Adam replied that he was hiding because he was naked and afraid. God asked, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you that you should not eat?" Adam blamed Eve. "The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate." Eve, in turn, blamed the serpent. "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." God then pronounced the consequences of their sin. To the serpent, a curse. It would crawl on its belly and be an enemy to humanity. A promise of redemption was also given. "And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel," a foreshadowing of Christ according to Christian interpretations. To Eve, pain would be greatly multiplied in childbirth, and she would be subject to her husband. To Adam, the ground would be cursed, and he would toil in sorrow to bring forth food. The earth would produce thorns and thistles, and he would return to the dust from which he came. God then expelled Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden, to prevent them from eating from the tree of life and becoming immortal in their sinful state. He placed cherubim with a flaming sword to guard the way to the tree of life. The meaning of the story. The story of Adam and Eve in Eden is central to Jewish and Christian theology because it explains the origin of sin and death in the world, the need for redemption and reconciliation with God, human fragility in the face of temptation, and the importance of obedience to God. While it is interpreted in various ways, the narrative remains one of the deepest reflections on free will, the consequences of human choices, and the relationship between God and humanity.